So I want to pose a question to all of you watching right now. Do you think it's possible to eat, possible for me, eat, pray, and get well? My guest today is Erin Porter. She wrote a book called Eat, Pray, and Get Well. I might say a favored guest. People love when you're on. I actually get calls from friends saying, when's Erin going to be back on? So welcome to the show. Thank you for coming in. Erin, for those who don't know, take us through a synopsis of your journey, starting when you were a little girl to right now.
Well, you know my story well, but when I was about 6, we moved out of an apartment in the Bronx and to a home in upstate New York, and I immediately got sick. Pretty severe asthma, allergies, and the doctors would just say it's the trees. They're different up here in upstate New York than in the Bronx. So I kind of stayed at that kind of a sickly kid until I was 18. I got a job in Manhattan, moved, got a very cheap apartment, the only thing I can afford yet. And within a month, I had my first sinus infection and started antibiotics. And a couple months later, the sinus infection is still there, but now I have heart arrhythmias. Now I have this feeling of fatigue. I'm starting to get symptoms from head to toe, and I would say 15, 20 years later, I'm still taking those antibiotics for my sinus infection, and now we're adding chronic Epstein-Barr and all kinds of benign heart arrhythmias, but that was probably the scariest symptom.
Do you know, the longer I work in this field, Erin, the more I realize the praying is essential because people who have been exposed to the mold you were back then generally aren't here, and they don't die of a mycotoxicoses. They don't die of a fungal condition. Their death certificate says asthma, or chronic sinusitis, or cancer. But as you know, your and my work together in reading your book really has proven that fungus goes far beyond the sinuses or the skin, little ringworm. It really, it can be local, but it's oftentimes systemic. Is that what you and the doctors, how many doctors have you seen?
Oh boy, at least 60 specialists. And we're talking about not knowing my cause for a good 20 to 25 years. So I thought all of these separate issues, and from the antibiotics, decades, I couldn't keep any food down. I told you about the sores, the pain that from the acid coming up. So I had a fantastic ear, nose, and throat finally look at my scan, and he said that's one of the most severe fungal infections I've ever seen in my practice.
And yet other doctors have looked at that and said, yeah, here's an antibiotic.
Here's some more antibiotics. I even had my first 2 sinus surgeries, they cultured, and they said it came back inconclusive. So it was actually my 4th surgery, but this guy, before I was even under, he said severe fungal infection. That's when I got this ray of hope. Oh, okay, what, first gross, right? Fungal infection in my sinuses. But I thought back to that apartment almost instantly, the mold that I could see, that I could smell, and I kind of knew instinctively that that's where I got it.
Erin, you talk about, you know, a bunch of doctors, hundreds of antibiotics, surgeries. Do you feel this sinus problem, and I know it proliferated all over your body, but do you feel that this problem has been cured?
I don't know if it'll ever be cured. So I have the tools now to keep it under control. And recently I was hit again from being exposed to some mold. But now I know how to take care of it. I know what doctor to go to who knows how to remove it correctly. And I have steps. I know what to, silver and oxygen. I'm actually even using oxygen now. That's something Dr. Dennis says is wonderful, because when you have mycotoxins that hit the bloodstream, of course the capillaries and the tissues just sort of close off, and which is good because no more mycotoxins are getting in, but bad because you're not detoxing. So the point of the oxygen is just open up those capillaries so you can actually get those antifungals to the tissues to get rid of it.
He is so smart, Dr. Don Dennis in Atlanta. I love that guy. Final question, quick, in 15 seconds. Does sugar in your diet tend to activate this mold again?
Oh, it does.
Same.
It does. I can tell the very next day I'll start sniffling, and I have to start getting out my sprays and trying to control it. Absolutely.
Eat, pray, and get well. Highly recommended, folks. I think you will grow and learn from what she has been through. Erin, thank you for coming in.
Thanks for
today.
having
Really good
me.
to see you.
Thank
again.
you. You too.